Welcome to episode 12 of the Golden Squeeze podcast, where we talk about NXT from this week. It was not the best effort by Shawn Michaels and his crew. A lot of questionable results, a lot of outcomes that you would not expect, a lot of just bad wrestling in the ring, just a lot of bad to this episode. But it started off with Dijak versus Noam Dar with Meta 4, and it was the first questionable outcome of the day, with Dijak taking the pinfall loss to Noam Dar. Not something that I would have done if I was booking this, but guess what? I'm not booking this. What did you think of the match and of the result?
I like the match. I like when the bigger guy goes against the smaller guy, and there were some spots where they seemed to be like a little off or like kind of hesitating a little bit, but once it got going and towards the end, I thought it was pretty good. Hey, I'm not I'm not a huge fan. Maybe it'll grow on me of the whole metaphor thing, but Noam Dar's
It's not
a
going to
good.
grow on you.
Yeah, well, Noam Dar's a good wrestler.
He is.
And
he's not Dijak, but he is a good wrestler.
And I enjoyed it. The whole thing with the guy wearing the T-bar like mask up on the apron, distracting Dijak and leading to the victor. I don't get it. It's like you had one of and depending on who you talk to, there's probably some people who think that was the best match of WrestleMania weekend. And I wouldn't argue too much with that.
Which match?
The triple threat.
Okay.
With Dijak, Briggs, and Obafemi. That was a fantastic triple threat, especially a triple threat with three big men. It was very good. And so coming off of that, to have Dijak lose already, I mean, granted, I know it's a tainted victory, whatever, but and again, could be jumping the gun, but I just don't know what is going on. And then later on in the night too, there was more, but it's just there's so much unknown. Because with the draft coming up, it's like, okay, is Dijak going to get called up, or are they setting up some sort of redemption arc for him to get another shot at the U.S. title? I mean, but I just thought it was very, very odd for him to lose like that.
Yeah.
And the fans love him. He is one of the okay. Well, obviously not to the level of Trick Williams, but he is one of the most over guys on that show. I mean, the Performance Center loves that guy.
Yeah.
And
as they should.
I think and I think they were all kind of shocked when he lost. And I'm always sad when I don't get to see the Feast Your Eyes finisher. but yeah, just surprising. And I know I sound like a broken record. I say this a lot on here, but that's not a knock on Noam Dar's capabilities as a wrestler. I just thought it was a questionable decision.
It was a questionable decision. Didn't make quite a lot of sense, but it is what it is. Maybe there's a plan going forward for what they're going to do with that. I don't agree with it, but I don't agree with a lot of stuff that happens. But in the end, I'm always end up entertained one way or another. So it is what it is. But then the next match, which I thought was just sloppy, was Sol Ruca and Lola Vice. Since I don't watch a lot of NXT, I'm new to a lot of these people. I'd seen Sol Ruca before. I don't know if I'd seen Lola Vice before, but her gimmick to me is really weird. That dancing
I can't get
does.
That song. I like the song though.
that dancing she does when she's coming to the ring is just so awkward, and I don't know if it's supposed to be awkward or if it just is awkward, but it's just not my cup of tea. But the match itself, it just seemed exactly. You did it better than her. But
No.
the match itself was too choreographed. It looked like something out of like Will Ospreay wrestling Ricochet. It just seemed, except bad. It just seemed
talking about like Sol Ruka's like cartwheels in the ropes and some of that stuff.
Yeah, it just looked weird. It looked out of place. It looked too rehearsed, and the timing was off. It just wasn't good. It was just a hard watch for me. I saw Sol Ruka's in a relationship with somebody on the main roster. I can't think of who. I'll look it up later. But and what is are they calling Natty the Boat? Is that what they're calling her?
Yes.
And is that best of all time? What does boat stand for?
I'm assuming so, and I'm assuming that's the play on the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
Well, okay. All right. Well, there was an interference at the end of the match that led to Lola Vice getting the win, and then Natty coming up on the and the interference was weird too, because they barely even showed the person who knocked her off the rope, and I wouldn't know who she was even if I did see her.
That's the one that their story and I can't remember how. I don't remember if it was during a match or what the case was.
Blair Davenport.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, and I should have checked beforehand, but their commentary is saying Blair Davenport is the one who put Sol Ruka on the shelf, like to cause her injury. I don't know if the injury occurred during a match or not, because I know NXT has had a few within the last year or so where injuries have occurred during matches or tapings.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure if that was one of them, but that's what they're billing it as, is her being the one that put her on the shelf to begin with. So I guess they're going down that road to revisit that. And then Natty popped up on the screen and setting up and I guess spring breaking is 2 weeks worth, because on some of the screens talk about night 1 of spring break and a NXT underground match.
Mm-hmm.
And they certainly they'll have Lola Vice win that. They have to.
I mean, Natty hasn't won since before Solo, so I mean, yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine a world where Lola Vice would lose that match. What does Natty need that win for?
Well, Natty already beat her. I think Natty beat her about a month ago. But
really?
Then Lola Vice, I think the next week beat Natty's protege. And I don't know if you caught something at the end they were talking about, and forgive me, I can't remember her protege's name, but talking
Blair
about
Davenport?
No.
Carmen Petrovich?
Yes, there you go. Petrovich, like indicating Petrovich will be there for the contract signing or whatever next week. Like, you bring her, like, and I've got a surprise for you. So I am kind of curious to see who she's going to bring, as because I don't really think they've given any hints recently as to who that may be, because Natty's last match was against Roxanne Perez when Vice interfered. So I am curious to see who she's going to bring with her for that. So
okay. Glad someone's curious, because anything involving Natalya, I do not care. All right, moving on to the next match. It was Ridge Holland versus Joaquin Wilde.
God,
if Ridge Holland never stepped on the screen again, I'd be okay with that.
It's got to stop. It's got to stop. And the fact that they're continuing this thing, like the whole thing with Sean Spears coming out and watching, they're doing both of these guys a disservice. Number one, nobody cares with the story arc with Ridge.
Not at all.
with Ridge, and then the whole Sean Spears being involved when he just came back with something that nobody cares about is not doing him any favors either.
Not at all.
But I did get a kick out of his face and that weaselly little smile he had when Ridge Holland walked past him after the match. But yeah, I don't know why that made me laugh, but it did. And but it's not doing either one of them any favors, and neither is that vest that Sean Spears is wearing. But
Sean Spears obviously doesn't care about his appearance, because if he did, he wouldn't have that stupid haircut.
Hey, you leave that mohawk alone.
That is not a mohawk. That is a landing strip, and it needs to go away.
Oh man, I can't say anything with my butt cut going on here because it's the end of the day and my hair's all jacked. But I just don't understand. And we talked earlier. I just have a hard time believing Triple H has as direct of an involvement currently as he did before, because talking about, hey, we listen to what the people want. When him and The Rock were talking about the audible they called for Mania, what the original plan was, they listened to the people and they went and tweaked it and did what they thought was best for all involved. If he had more of his hand in there, they would have called an audible on this right after it started, because it was horrible. And it still is horrible. And I just don't understand what they're doing, because it's going to be hard to come back from this. I don't see any way this is going to be salvageable. I just don't. Unless they just do away with this whole thing and they end up putting, I think Spears and Holland would make a fine tag team. I think that could be okay. But this arc of the injuring thing and some of that stuff, and it's got to stop. They are burying both of these guys, and
good.
And I just don't understand how they continued on with this Ridge Holland thing, knowing, I mean, you can tell how dead it is in there when he's out there. And that's why I say I have a hard time believing Triple H hasn't just told Shawn Michaels, hey man, do whatever you feels right. Because if Triple H is more involved and they truly were listening to the people, they would be able to hear the crickets when Ridge Holland's out there. And
yeah.
And dude, and he's got a good look. He's a strong dude.
But he hurt Big E.
Yes.
So we don't need him.
I know, and very unfortunate. And I just definitely think there are other ways he could be used without going to this gimmick that was very questionable because of what really happened to begin with. And I know they like to incorporate reality in a lot of things, but I think them going this direction was misguided from the jump. And he definitely was not popular enough to warrant that gimmick going to him.
Yeah.
It would have been different if it was a Cody Rhodes or a Jey Uso or Sami Zayn who accidentally hurt somebody and they wanted to go on this and somebody that the fans would get behind and try to build back up to get that stigma off of them. But he's not those guys.
No.
And I just, do you have any thoughts on why they're continuing to do this? It just doesn't.
Because it's a developmental brand, and they want to give him one last chance to try to make this work. And if it doesn't, they're going to fire him.
I mean, but there's other ways to make it work with a guy who's got that look and strength besides this crap. It is crap.
But everyone's got that look and strength. This is the big leagues. They got other guys. There's not one Ridge Holland. He's a dime a dozen.
Then why are they still doing it?
Because they don't like us as people. They don't like the fans, and they want to torture us. They give us WrestleMania Night 2, and then they give us Ridge Holland. You got to give a little and take a little. It's not good. I wish it wasn't happening. I hate seeing him on my screen right now. It's just awful. It's not working. I think they'll pull the plug soon. The question is, do they pull the plug by changing on the storyline, or do they pull the plug by just stopping it altogether and hoping that we forget about it? Because if we're being honest, I only remember about Ridge Holland's existence when Ridge Holland was on my TV. If he wasn't on my TV, I would not ask, "Oh, where's Ridge Holland?" Those were words that would never be uttered by old Joshua here. So it is what it is. We've already given him too much time on this podcast because it's just not worth it. It's not worth dwelling on the bad things.
Well, compared to what the product used to be, and in terms of, in my opinion, the stories being told and the storylines, I think it is worth discussing and question why they're allowing this to happen. It was very, very obvious from the...
They're ribbing him. The only explanation.
I don't know,
he looked at Stephanie McMahon for too long, and Triple H didn't like it, so now it's a nice long rib. I don't know why they're doing this. I don't know why they're doing this to Sean Spears. I don't know why I don't know why he agreed to come back to the company if this is what they were going to do, unless he was so bad at AEW that they said, we're not going to give you anything, and he couldn't get any other promotion, and this is his only option, because he's doing a program that makes it seem like this was his only option if he wanted to continue to wrestle.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Because no one would want to come back to this. He can't be making that much money. He's on NXT with no hope of going to the main roster. Maybe he is. I don't know. I'm sure that the small indies don't pay all that much, but who knows? Who knows? Hopefully it ends soon. They put us out of our misery. I think that they have to see the tea leaves, because in wrestling, if you're getting booed, that's great. If you're getting cheered, that's great. If they're not making noise, and we have a problem. And that's what we're getting right now, because no one cares enough to boo. No one cares enough to cheer. So that's when you know that you got to end this.
And they haven't been making noise, even during if the lack of reaction during the farce of a stepping away from the ring wasn't indication enough. I don't know what will be, but anyways, as crazy as it sounds, I could talk about that nonsense for a long time and how.
But I won't let you. So
thank you. That's why you're here. Thanks.
All right, moving on to something that I know that you want to talk about. The family demands payment from No Quarter Catch Crew.
Okay. Lots of things to talk about here. Number one, are you aware with the allegations Ronda Rousey has made?
No. Well, against who?
Of course. I had this all ready to talk about. Now I can't.
Yes, I am. Now that you say it, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
And the person pretty much didn't deny them, but I can't remember who it was.
No. Well, he did in a sense.
I mean, he gave his explanation, which in my opinion was not a denial.
Drew Gulak.
Yes.
Who was part of No Quarter Catch Crew. And last week, when they came out, when they ended up having the tag team against the family and talking about, handling stuff and the payment and all that, Gulak's name, and people noticed this last week, his name was no longer on the entry LED board thing for No Quarter Catch Crew. It was just Dempsey and the other two. And Gulak's name, some eagle-eyed fans noticed that. And so, just when I think in this day and age of wrestling, it's like, is it really going to work when Uncle Howdy comes back with the direction they're trying to go in? However, then they on television have basically indicating that the family has murdered Drew Gulak. And I mean that is exactly what they're implying, that they took care of him and that is why he is gone. And so if they're going in that direction, then I agree. His Drew Gulak's explanation, because Ronda Rousey said that he tugged on the string of her pants.
Yep.
His explanation is he went to shake her hand and it got caught or brushed against the string. And for them to even storyline go as far as implying that that mafiosos murdered him in a murder for hire, they must have some sort of either witnesses that said, nah, what he's saying ain't how it happened, or they, like AEW, have preserved security footage from wherever this took place.
That's a ballsy move to tug on Ronda, because Ronda Rousey would kill Drew Gulak, and the fact that one, he would do that to anyone, two, probably in front of witnesses, and three, to a Olympian, former UFC women's champion. That takes a lot of guts to do that. I guess maybe I'm not taking a position on the issue. I just think that it'll be very ballsy to tug on the strings in front of people to someone who could probably beat him up.
And the thing was, he was like immediately written off of TV when this came to light. I don't know if that's just instant reaction, like in the wake of the Vince McMahon situation, that accusations of that level you're being put on leave while they're being investigated. But just the fact that they're implying he was murdered on television, I mean, they obviously have.
They took care of him. No, he's not.
And
he's got cement shoes on.
They either just, it was blatantly obvious what he said was BS, or they know what he said was BS. And quite possibly,
why would anyone's hand, Ronda Rousey's not a big woman. She's like 5'2". Why are her hands that low where his hand could come down and pull her drawstring? His story is just not like, you don't shake their hand that low.
And honestly, and this is pure speculation. I think it could be something like, yeah, he did it, as a joke or something. But when she brought it to light in that book and made it very clear, I think it was in the book, or these allegations came forward at some point, and it became clear to him, she felt this way about that. And again, this is just speculation that he maybe, found himself in a rock and a hard place, and he decided to take his one chance to save his job and hope that nobody would refute it. It'd be his word against hers. And he had the deep down know that if that's the case, that was not going to end well for him.
No, he could have come up with a better lie than the one he came up with. But
and again, to our 4 viewers, we're speculating. We don't know. We know what Ronda Rousey has said. We know what Drew Gulak's response is to this. But what is also known is that instead of just saying he's on the shelf with injury or something in a storyline manner, he's dead. They have he's swimming with the fishes now. And so All right, so okay, talking about clunky stuff and questioning what they are doing. Say what you will about Tony D'Angelo and the D'Angelo family gimmick. I love it. You know I love it.
I do.
But
all three of them or four of them know you love it too.
Yes. And regardless of what you think of the gimmick, Tony D'Angelo is good on the mic. He can talk.
Mm-hmm.
What in the hell were they thinking putting Charlie Dempsey on the microphone against Tony D'Angelo? Talking about not doing anybody any favors. That was hard to watch.
It's a sink or swim moment.
Okay, and that's another thing though. That is William Regal's son, even though for whatever reason they're not acknowledging that on television.
You don't remember when Brian Christopher, they would refuse to acknowledge him being Jerry Lawler's son?
Yes.
And Jim Ross would be like, that's your boy. And he'd be like, what? What are you talking about? I don't even know who that guy is.
And even more so with that. William Regal is back with the company. He's been on screen with his son. And even though they weren't admitting it, the crowd was chanting, he's your father. And so when you got a guy like that, who works backstage, I don't care about a sink or swim moment. They had to know that guy, he just doesn't have the chops on the mic right now. And that was bad. That was painful. I felt sorry for him. That was hard. That was hard to watch.
If they can do it to Roman Reigns, they can do it to Charlie Dempsey. You remember what John Cena did to Roman?
I remember. However, with that said,
that was a hard watch.
That was a hard watch, but Roman was in a different stratosphere of booking, even at that time, than Charlie Dempsey and No Quarter Catch Crew.
They knew that Roman was not going to be able to go toe for toe with John Cena, and they put him out there to do that.
Not many people can.
Right, I understand that, but they wanted him to be the top guy, and they still put him out there, and they said, look, you're going to sink or swim. So I'm just saying there's precedent in the WWE for letting a guy go out there and fail. I bet you William Regal said, I want my son to go out there, and I want him to fail so that he can learn from this and get better. I bet you Regal played a part in this and knew that was going to happen.
I mean, am I overreacting just because of...
No, it was bad.
Okay, because I mean, that was absolutely
the whole show was bad. There were very few highlights on the edition of NXT.
And then on the heels of this, with all the directions they could have gone for Tony D'Angelo, refusing the family's help to use heel tactics as a heel, I guess he's a heel,
I think they're in the process of wanting to turn him face.
Yeah, but
the slow turn.
But they could have started some tension there within the family. And instead, they're putting him in a feud for the Heritage Cup against No Quarter Catch Crew. Now, granted, hey, I've got no problem with the family having it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Tony D'Angelo is popular enough where, he could still be contending for a better title than that on the brand, especially considering what seems to be looming call-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was odd, but I mean, nothing compared to them having Charlie Dempsey attempt to go toe to toe on the mic with the Don. That, oh God, I just even thinking about it now, I feel bad for him, man. That was bad.
Yeah, it was bad, but he will learn. He will grow. His dad will help him. He's got all the resources available to him to get better at a promo, and you can learn how to do a promo. I could go down a laundry list of people who learn how to do a promo and couldn't couldn't talk at all in the beginning. And like we just talked about, Roman is the most recent and the best example of a guy who couldn't cut a promo whatsoever. And now he's great on the mic. He's great.
All right. So after that painful interaction with Dempsey and the Don, the brawl broke out between the two factions. And so I'm guessing it'll be a future Heritage Cup match between the two, maybe as soon as a spring breaking coming up. And but what do we have next?
We have Dragunov in his open challenge, which so Javon Evans.
Did you go back and watch?
Yeah, I saw it. Okay. Javon Evans is he looked good. He looked good. He's talented. 19 years old is crazy.
Yes.
That's absolutely crazy. But here's my issue with this. Well, I got a couple issues. I'll get to my issues with him being in this match in a second. But the entire I hate these contrived things that the WWE does, and they do it in their main that open challenge where everyone starts running down and they're like fake, like can't get in the ring when like really nothing is stopping them from getting in the ring. But they're
each other.
They look, but they really weren't. They were just like clawing at the ring, like there was nothing stopping anybody from getting in the ring. That made me furious. And then he comes out of nowhere, and but first of all, the way he entered the ring was awesome.
Yeah,
that was a really cool.
Really cool like
visual in a really cool spot. But he gets this match at 19 years old, his second week on the roster.
Yep.
That's not okay with me. You got to pay your dues, man. I mean, I'm old school, I guess. A guy just coming on the scene and just immediately getting a match is it's a little ridiculous.
They've done it before.
With?
John Cena.
Who? Okay. John Cena did not get a championship match in 2 weeks.
I don't think this, and granted, I've got issues with this
not
too.
This was for the title, wasn't it?
I don't believe so. I don't think so. I think it was.
Okay, then that makes me even madder. Why is the champion having an open? Why does anybody want to fight him if you're not going for the belt? Why? What's the point of fighting the champ if it's not a title fight?
Well, maybe now I'm wondering, because I know that they had a backstage segment where Ava called Dragunov. She said, "Hey," she's like, "Trick has a match tonight before y'all's match, so it's only fair that you have a match tonight." And he said, the first person is like open to anyone in the locker room. The first person that comes eye to eye with me gets a crack. Now, I guess in theory, and I now I'm questioning whether or not it was for the title. I don't think it was.
I'm trying to find that.
I don't believe it was, but I could still see everybody wanting the opportunity to justify, well, hey, after this match, I beat the then champ, regardless of if he wins or loses. I beat the current champ, and I get the next title shot.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was for the title, because I don't remember
I can't see that it was, and normally when it's a title match, it'll say, yeah, the number one contender title match, title contender. Yeah, I don't believe that it was. I guess that makes me feel a little bit better. It also confuses me even more as to why there are so many guys so eager to want to fight Ilya Dragunov. Like, do they have beef with him? Why did so many people want to fight him?
I think that's why. I mean, I would hope that would be because if this wasn't the justification, then yes, I agree. For a non-title match, yeah, what's the hurry? Yeah. Besides, like, hey, well, I want the winner of him versus Trick because I beat the champion the week prior or something along those lines. Yeah. But I know how athletically gifted Evans is. That's very apparent. He's already got the facial expressions and the selling down. Well, I say down. I mean, in the limited matches, I
In his
think
5-minute match that he had, if that, with Ilya Dragunov, you could tell he had the facials.
Nah, just some of the way he was selling the moves and stuff. I was like, okay, he gets it. You know what I mean? He gets it, and
I'd argue that 10-year-old me and you is better than 19-year-old him.
But, yeah,
that's just me.
Well, of course. I mean, I thought that was understood, but I worry about pushing a guy that young, that quick, especially considering his first match was fairly competitive against
Scripps, yeah.
And
so
then
you're going to be competitive against Scripps, and then you expect us, yeah.
But he got in, decent amount of offense and was kicking out of. No, obviously he didn't kick out of an H bomb or a torpedo Moscow, or I would have had to take a break had that happened. But my concern with stuff like that, and same with John Cena, to that point when he answered Kurt Angle's challenge and came out, they tried to cram him back.
Ruthless aggression.
Had he not had the gift of freestyling, I don't know if he would have recovered from them trying to cram him down everybody's throat that early.
I'd argue he didn't recover, and they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing it. And I mean, it's a situation where he was about to be fired, and from his account, he was rapping at a Halloween party, and Stephanie McMahon heard it and said, "I like that," and that saved his career. So,
yeah,
and you can't do that and expect the fans to react the way that you think they are going to react. I don't care who it is. If they're that young and they're talented, that's only going to piss people off even more, because people don't want to like things that are not attainable for them. It's one of the reasons why everyone loves Stone Cold, because they could relate to Stone Cold. It's tough to relate to a guy who just comes in right away, gets a match against the champion, and he competes, and it's also, like you said, not believable. When the guy who had the worst rating on WWE 2K24, you go up against that guy, and it's a competitive match, and then the next week, you're fighting the champ, or whenever it is, you're fighting the champ. It just doesn't add up. It's sloppy. It doesn't do Evans any favors. I think it hurts him, and I think it sets him up for having a rough road ahead of him. But I'm sure he can recover, especially since it's NXT. No one cares.
I care. But here's kind of like what about this person's side of the argument? Roxanne Perez is pretty well liked by the fans, it seems, and she's only 22.
22 and 19 are not the same thing.
One's
a freshman, one's a senior.
I mean, I understand that, but still, young, and you have more seasoned veteran people there, and and maybe it's more of a NXT in that fan base there. That fan base is different. I don't know how. Yeah. I know what I'm thinking in my head, but certain things that work in NXT, I do not think will work on the main roster. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
I equate that to NXT as like a college football fan. A college football fan is completely different than an NFL fan. A person who exclusively watches college, they are a completely different type of football fan than somebody who watches NFL. I don't watch college football. Like me, myself, I don't watch college football anymore. When I got married, I can't watch as many sports as I used to. So I watch college football occasionally, but I don't watch it religiously like I did when I was in college myself. The guys in my office, they don't watch NFL. They are college football fans. they have a different fandom than I have. My love for the Commanders is different than their love for UVA or the Maryland Terrapins. You know, it's just a different type of fan. They have those allegiances, and you feel like you're a part of something when you're a college football fan or when you're in NXT. I love WWE. I don't feel like I'm a part of it though. I'm a fan of it. When you're NXT, I feel like you feel like you're a part of it, so you react to things differently. So I think that's probably the best analogy to describe a NXT fan as opposed to a WWE fan. There's the pageantry of college football and the allure of college football is just different than the NFL, and that's just different than the main roster.
Yeah, and I mean that was a good way to put it. Sometimes I wish I was like that, but I get equally as disappointed throughout the year when the Longhorns choke or the 49ers choke. And at least the Spurs sucked all year, so I wasn't too
wire to wire ass.
And they foolishly let the Indiana Fever draft Caitlin Clark. And well, maybe next time. But
she's taking her talents to the big three anyway, so don't worry about it.
I can't say all those zeros in that paycheck. I wouldn't blame her, but but no, that is a very good way to put it, and it just seems like I guess the biggest example I can use off the top of my head. I know the Alpha Academy gimmick works. It on the main roster, but with that said, just seeing Alpha Academy and the way the crowd, like how half of them are wearing Chase U shirts at the Performance Center, I do not think that Chase U gimmick works on the main roster.
It does not.
At least not.
It was the same way with. You can tell something that's just not going to work on the main roster, like the Rosebuds with Adam Rose. That was never going to work on the main roster.
Yeah, that was.
Who else? Nikki Cross's stuff was just not, for the most part, going to work as well on the main roster. I'm trying to think of other things that don't work as well. Gargano and Ciampa, they're fine, but they're not what they were on NXT on the main roster.
I think I truly believe part of that was the way they were booked.
I don't think that they could get over on them. I don't think they're going to be able to get over on the main roster. They're fine. Don't get me wrong. I like DIY a lot. I think they are great. And but I just don't think that they have what the main roster needs. What you need in the main roster to succeed. Or I think they will have a sustained career. I think that they will I think that they'll be there for a while, but as a group, I just don't see it. I see it only going so far. They're never going to take off.
And I know they did it. The feud lasted way longer than it should have, but I think some of that too was because of injury to Ciampa in NXT. But I think they could have a very good feud for the Intercontinental title if they split them up, because they're fantastic wrestlers. They can go and do long matches, and it's like the workman style title.
Yeah, but one of the issues they're going to run into is, and one of the things you don't realize as much when you're watching NXT, I never viewed Ciampa as being small when he was on NXT. But man, when you see him on the main roster next to all the other guys, he just is a small guy. And yeah, he's ripped and chiseled and has the abs and what have you, but man, him and Johnny are just two small guys. And I think that plays against them, because once main roster guys are just bigger guys. Even the small guys like Seth Rollins are still big guys, and I would love to see Tommaso Ciampa stand next to Seth Rollins and them look at each other, because I would love to see just the size difference of guys who, if you had asked me when Ciampa was on NXT, I would have said, oh, they're the same size. Him and Rollins are the same size, but then you see him next to all the other big guys, and you're just like, oh, no, he's not the same size as those guys. I think that's part of it. But like I said, they will have some sustained success, but they're going to be riding the coattails of NXT DIY, I think, for their entire career. I think that a lot of any success they do have, I think, was because of what the fans who also watch NXT and the main roster, what they remember from that tag team.
Oh yeah, but I mean, they had one of my, not just NXT, one of my favorite feuds.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But can you think of any indelible moment they've had in the main roster?
No.
And how long have they been here for?
A while.
Like 3 years?
Yeah, no. But again, I think some of that was piss poor booking.
You can overcome bad booking. Take the New Day. They did it. They were a gospel group that didn't get any reaction when they first started. They were a gospel heel group that got no reaction from the crowd. They were Ridge Holland. They were a group of Ridge Hollands before Ridge Holland. So, and what did they do? They turned New Day Sucks into New Day Rocks, and then they became one of the best groups of all time. So that you can't tell me that WWE did them any favors with that booking, because they just didn't. They just overcame it. Yes. They overcame that terrible booking because they are talented individuals. And Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano are talented wrestlers, but I don't know if they are talented sports entertainers, and I think that might be what their biggest issue is going to be.
Yeah, well, we shall see.
We shall see. I don't even know how we got here, but we're here.
Talking about gimmicks that will work and not work, but I don't even remember who we were talking about.
Neither do I. So let's just go on to the next match. And
wait, which match were we just talking about?
We were just talking about Dragunov and Evans. And it came just full circle.
No. Talking about setting them up for potential failure. I think them turning against him but maybe they won't. Maybe they'll pump the brakes and not. I mean, they've got a stud, but they just got to book it right. But anyways, that's all I'll say on that. It was a fun sprint of a match, and but if he would have kicked out of Torpedo Moscow, I would have had to take a break. I would have been done for a week.
The one gimmick that I wasn't sure, I think it would have worked, and I wanted to know if it would, and we'll never find out, is Patrick Clark, also known as Velveteen Dream. I think it would have worked, but it's the one gimmick where I think to myself, if it didn't work, I wouldn't be surprised, and if it did work, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. Most gimmicks I can tell right away. Like I can tell Braun Breaker can work.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a lot of these guys down there where you can tell, it might work. Yeah, it's not going to work. I don't know with Velveteen Dream. I think it would. I think he could have made it work because he's Javon Evans before Javon Evans. I mean, he was 21. 22 when he first.
Nah, he's not Javon Evans.
It's better. Dream was awesome. I mean a young guy. When I mean Javon Evans, they obviously don't have the same athleticism. They have the same move set. I mean, Velveteen Dream was doing Randy Savage elbow drops off the top rope. I just mean from a savant perspective, Patrick Clark got it. Dream understood the business. He was good at what he did, and he was too damn young to be that damn good, I guess is the best way of what I'm trying to say. they're completely different wrestlers, but they were both this young phenoms who clearly understand the business.
He had a chip on his shoulder, Dream did, because of that criticism Hogan gave him during the show. You remember that?
Yeah, but no, can't take criticism from Hulk Hogan.
No. Jesus Christ. I'm talking. But when I say a chip on his shoulder, I mean in a good way. He used it as motivation, and he incorporated that into hulking up in matches and the wrestling. He would wear like the Hogan NWO boots, like the style of boots, and he took that and he used it in a way which propelled him in NXT. But no, that's a good question though, whether or not that is whether or not that would have worked. And and
I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, probably not. Do you think the family could work on the main roster? I don't think it can. There's no way.
No.
But Tony D'Angelo is too good on the mic. They've got to have the family turn on him and put him solo. They have to excommunicate him.
Work.
No, yeah. But okay, I just wanted to see if you felt the same way I did. I don't think that faction in its current set works on the main roster.
No. It just doesn't. It doesn't.
But then again, they're about to bring back Uncle Howdy.
Yeah, I think that's more of a favor to Mike Rotunda. But yeah.
And I'm very, very, very interested to see how they pull this off. I like
it's the long con.
Yeah, well,
Bray's not really dead.
Oh no. Well, our viewership is going down soon. Oh boy.
Oh man.
But
there was actually a time when I didn't think that Paul Bearer was dead, and I thought it was all long con, and it wasn't. He's dead.
He was from right down the road from where I call home on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Yes.
Yeah, from Mobile, Alabama, or over in that area. But anyway, so God, here we go again. At least we're not sleeping yet. So, what match is next after dragging off?
Oh, I'm well rested. Next match. Speaking of college, we had Thea Hale with Chase U versus Tatum Paxley. So what is Thea Hale's deal? Why is she so energetic? Why is she so
okay? Now
her facials look like when she grew up, she loved Luna Vachon because like she's got.
I think she
acts like Luna.
No, just like that. It comes across to me as just that like excited, like young college university energy kind of a thing, like just super over energetic, over excited. But she is one of my favorite wrestlers. She is quick.
She's good.
She's athletic. She's good. With that said, I hope they change her gimmick in time and do not send her to the main roster with that gimmick.
Oh, they're not.
They've got to turn her. They've got to tweak that. They keep the same style in the ring, but I personally think she's a future star in the women's division, but they cannot send her with that gimmick.
But how often do they change the gimmick of somebody from NXT on the main roster? They're going to change it. They need to change it now before she goes up.
Oh, no, agreed. It needs to be changed, but she's going to have to break away from Chase U. She has to. But I think they just had her kind of get away from them when she was friends with JC Jane, and then now she just went back, but and it seems like, based on the backstage stuff with Andre Chase, that things are back to good now, but they've got to tweak that. because I
more
think
than tweak, they need a change.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like the same full out heel edgy or like that far on that side of it, like JC Jane. I'm not saying that far, but it needs to be tweaked. On the flip side of that, Tatum Paxley, did you see that vignette with her talking about that? Was great.
Of course.
That's
what WWE does best.
But dude, it didn't feel to me like when I was watching that, because I'd never really seen her do like something like that. And it seemed natural. Like she's got the natural
yeah, but everybody
chops.
looks natural on the vignettes. You can't use a vignette. Most people
some of it still feels forced. And
yes, but you can hide a lot doing a vignette as opposed to doing something live on the mic or pre-taped on the mic.
I think that obsessive character could segue right into the main roster.
Well, we've seen it before, so we know it works. Work with Mickie James.
Yeah, but and I like the explanation of this, how, just obsessed with the title, and now that Valkyrie doesn't have it anymore. I liked that explanation of why, because it was kind of like, okay, why did she just turn on her like that? So that actually made sense. That was probably the best thing they did this week, or one of them was.
It was a very low bar.
Yeah, well, but
I mean, the match itself wasn't.
Well, no, but again, that's just setting up what should have, in my opinion, already happened at Takeover, or I keep calling it Takeover, Stand and Deliver, the Thea Hale versus JC Jane singles match. That should have already happened, but they're still doing that. And Hale did lose this match, correct? After the distraction, she got
Paxley won.
Okay, yeah, and
but after that vignette, you got to let Paxley.
Yeah, but I think, because Valkyrie and her got into a big brawl, didn't they?
Yeah,
that should be. I'm hoping that's as good of a match as I'm thinking in my head. It will be.
Well, then afterwards there was a backstage segment with Miss Nepotism, and she announced that there will be a triple threat match with Valkyria and Paxley and Roxanne Perez. So it is so clear to me that Ava's only there because she's the Rock's daughter that it's actually painful. And it's fine. It is what it is. But we just got to be honest with each other. She's got no chops. And Rock, if you're hearing this, I want you to come on here and tell me otherwise. But
also, Rock, we'll just take you making fun of us on one of your videos as long as we get the exposure. We don't care.
This is the smallest assembly of trailer park trash that the world has ever seen on this with us and our viewership.
With this belt, I thee wed your blood and your blood. Mama Rhodes' belt.
Do you disagree about Ava?
No. But
she has never said a word to me that sounded natural.
I did.
Every word she speaks sounds like, oh my, like it makes me cringe.
I did like the oh, guess what? You're having a triple threat. I did like that. That was the most natural sounding thing when she was like throwing it in Perez's face. Like, oh, guess what? You get a triple threat. Like, whatever, walked off. I did laugh about that. I thought that was good. But yeah, beyond that, dude, it's just very, and again, just
she'll be a champion in 5 years.
Well, and
The Rock is her boss.
Now, I will say this. When they introduced her as part of that faction, I think it was Schism. I think that's the one Joe Gacy was in, and some of those other guys. When they brought her in a faction where she could lean on other people to talk, I didn't have any problem with that introduction. But then all of a sudden, she's the GM. I was like, this is just. Yes, I understand it's Rock's daughter and all that, but still, even with that said, I just thought that was odd.
It is odd,
but
you know, it wouldn't be the first time that there was nepotism. It's not going to be the last time inside this profession. It's only going to probably get worse as more and more and more generations of wrestlers come along. But it is what it is. She's not bad to the point where it bothers me, so it's fine.
I agreed.
Her role is small. She's a GM.
Yeah.
She forces a couple of matches. She's no Nick Aldis or Adam Pearce, but she'll learn.
I think that'll be a fun match, though. That triple threat, that should be a good one. But actually, and I like the unknown because they teased Perez moving up and going in the draft, but is she really going to after just getting the title back, or are they gonna? I mean, so I'm very, very curious to see how this plays out. And same with Dragunov and Trick.
Yeah.
Especially with the stipulation that, okay, if Trick loses, he leaves NXT. They could be fully convinced that that he is popular enough already to send him up to the main roster and keep Dragunov there, even though they tease, or they could call them both up. But that will be.
I can't wait to hear the first main roster crowd do his theme song.
Yeah,
because if people actually care and know who he is, that could be rowdy on the main roster.
I mean, we got a taste of it. Like that NXT Stand and Deliver was like 16,000, wasn't it? That was but that place was going nuts.
They can do more. Give that man his first pay-per-view. Give him his first WrestleMania in a stadium and get 70,000 people going. Won't that Trick? That would be a nice little entrance. But let's move on. Let's go on to the Authors of Pain, who are on NXT again, versus Malik Blade and Idris Enofe. And the Authors of Pain, I feel bad because they caused me pain watching them, and the fact that they came back. They remind me of Sean Spears, where they're coming back and then they just end up in obscurity again. And I feel like they had many fewer options than Sean Spears coming back, but are we really to the point where they're back on NXT? Is that where they are? Is that where they're destined to be? Which is so big.
I think with the looming call-ups, that I could definitely see a situation where the Final Testament is about to hold the NXT championship and the tag team championships.
Okay. Maybe.
I mean, I could, because granted, even though I think he's good enough and has the look to be on the main roster, they couldn't figure out how to make it work so far with Cross. But he's a believable champion, regardless of what show he's on, and he's definitely a believable one on NXT. And so, yeah, I mean, but again, that's part of it where it has me wondering in a good way, like, okay, what are they going to end up doing with this? So I'm excited to see what comes of it, because Authors of Pain are believable champions. The only thing I really did not like about this is because this match should not have lasted as long as it did. Because
for that to last as long as this did, and for Evans to go as short as it did, you could have given some time from this tag team match over to that. No, you're right.
Yeah, because this team hasn't won. It's like a running thing about them, not getting wins and trying to find momentum and this and that. It's like, and you hey, those guys are athletic and talented. It's not a knock on that, but just the way they've been booked, and you're bringing these monsters back, it should not have lasted that long at all. But it did, and I got to see them in Scarlet, so all's well.
All's well that ends well, and they got the win. So congratulations to AOP for getting a win, which they they needed.
And I'm assuming, because Axiom and Frazier came out. So I'm assuming that match is happening sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Interesting pairing of those two teams, but I'm sure that they will do their best to put on a good match.
Oh, yeah.
But next up, we get Ivar versus my favorite wrestler, Josh Briggs. And this match was befitting Briggs. Ivar picks up the win.
Did you see the backstage segment before the match?
Yes.
So I'm supposed to believe that Briggs had multiple broken ribs, and all they put on him was some tape, not even a Kevlar vest or something like they do, and that they allowed him in a sanctioned match. I'm supposed to believe that in this day and age of them protecting people, that they let him go to the ring for a sanctioned match after they had a segment where the doctor said he had broken ribs. I'm supposed to believe that was allowed.
It's real to me, damn it.
Yeah, you're supposed to believe it.
Yes, it is.
Supposed to believe it because it's believable. Those broken ribs are the only reason why he lost Ivar, and they were shattered to pieces, and now he's going to have to be in the hospital for 10 months because of them.
I did like, though, how Briggs called him out for losing to Sheamus. that was good. That was good.
Yeah.
But again, that whole thing doesn't make sense. I'm supposed to believe Ivar's a credible threat when they just fed him to Sheamus for Sheamus's return match, and then he comes and won, but still was a hoss fight against a guy who they're billing as having a couple broken ribs, and I'm supposed to believe that you have a chance in hell against Obafemi.
In fairness, you've been telling me for months that Josh Briggs is the next Mark Calloway. So, I mean,
all right. I think Roger Clemens is misremembering over there because I don't recall saying that.
That's the way I remember it. That's the way I remember it. Okay. Sorry. Sorry, fans. You remember it that way too. We're not going to dwell too much on this match. Let's just move on.
But hold on. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier with Dijak. You had these two of the guys that were part of one of the best matches of WrestleMania weekend. They both have already got losses. And I just because, well, I will say this though, Briggs, at least in that promo, brought up wanting to go back after Obafemi. So that whole thing was brought up again. So I'm hoping that this leads to some other chance at Dijak and him getting another crack. And hopefully, I don't know, man. I hope there's some plausible explanation why after a match like that those guys are already losing.
Yeah. They hate you. That's the plausible explanation. This is the best way to take out that hatred.
Yeah, well.
Give them L's. But, Ivar's. We talked about this when we talked about on Raw. He's nimble. He can move. And he can go. So there's no reason why you need to make him just come out here and take L's from Sheamus and take L's from...
No, I've got no problem because they've been doing this, bringing people down from the main roster stuff. I've got no issue with him going against Obafemi. Not really. However, yes, like me and you agree on why are you billing him to go against Obafemi and then having him lose to Sheamus? Sheamus could have squashed some jobber. And I don't...
Could have squashed Briggs. Like we talked about before. He could have squashed Briggs.
And according to Sheamus, he wasn't supposed to be back for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that's the thing and I'm glad that you brought that up. Like, you brought him back early to beat Ivar.
To squash a guy that you're supposed to make us believe can beat a monster of a champion on NXT. I don't get it. It wasn't necessary. I don't. Maybe that was fan service for the Canadian fans. I don't know. I have no idea. But because Sheamus is very well liked. I get that. The fans love Sheamus, as they should. But I just questionable all the way around. But anyways, what was next? Main event?
Next was the main event. A steel cage match between Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes.
The match was fine. I think they made we all knew Trick was going to win, especially since they already announced that he was fighting Dragunov for the title. Good enough match. Why do they insist on having the picture-in-picture during the main event? And it was a long set of commercials. Why did they do that during the main event?
Because they have to make their money, Wade.
Okay, do that crap during Charlie Dempsey stumbling all over his words. I mean,
they tried to, but Williams stopped them.
And yes, I know they got to get their sponsor stuff, and I 100% understand that. But that was way too long, too much of the match to be a split screen. I mean, for your main event.
On the bright side, though, actually, you know what? I don't have a bright side. It's silly. They got to make their money. I get that, but put the segment like in the second to last segment. You know, you can move around your commercials. I feel like to fit what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I don't get. It's like, oh well, you know, you get to see more of the action, but at least to me, part of the thing I like hearing the commentary during the match.
Yeah,
and. So, but even if you don't like the commentary, even if you're somebody that would prefer to watch it with the volume down and just watch the wrestling match, or any event, a basketball game, football game, baseball game, whatever, I'm sure you'd prefer to have the game or the wrestling match on the whole damn screen.
Yeah,
and I just don't. But especially during the main event, man, there's got to be a better way going forward for that. And especially if in a match like that, which is, you know, typically a cage match or something of that nature, or no holds barred match, usually the end of the feud, at least for the time being.
Right.
And so I just, very, very, just frustrating that happened. But it was made up for when Melo's horrific security tried to get into the ring, and they got thwarted at every turn. And
it's nice to know that NXT uses the same security that the main roster does.
But see, when Carmelo started doing that, and they had that different look, you know, with the vest and the ski mask. I was like, man, I like that. That's different. It's cool. But then they still got the crap kicked out of them.
Yeah.
But when they started trying to climb the cage to get in and come through, oh God, that was awesome. That was great, dude.
Yeah. I mean, Trick's gonna, if given the right opportunity, when he comes into the main roster, he has a chance to succeed. I don't envision him getting the right opportunity, unfortunately.
I do.
But if he does, nah.
No, Triple H is
gonna put him in New Day. He's gonna take Big E's spot. Perfect fit. Why are you laughing?
Yeah,
what do you think I meant?
That is not happening.
It's happening.
No,
this has all been to put Trick Williams in New Day. It's a new day. Yes, it is. That is Trick Williams coming into this faction. That is what they meant by that.
Or as Triple H would say, it's a new era. Yes, it is. I don't see that happening, but I am curious to see how they book him.
Yeah.
So,
well, we'll see.
Shall see.
We'll see. But what did you think of the steel cage match?
No, it was fine. But again, it was just so distracting when a big chunk of it is in that split screen and I can't hear the commentary team, and I can only see half and only half of the television. I don't. It was frustrating, and it was fine. It was a good match as I would expect, and I liked the spot at the end where Trick went to use the chair and Trick hit the trick shot. The old knee or finishing move that propels the chair into the head for the 3 count. That was a little old school booking in my opinion, and I feel like that has happened in at least 1 or 2 Shawn Michaels matches where he super kicked somebody on the chair and it hit the face. So I liked it.
Yeah.
I think it was a bit of a callback in those regards, and so no, it was good. It was fine. And again, I love the thwarted security run at the end, but very, very frustrating though when your main event, a big chunk of it is a split screen. I do not like that.
Nope, I'm the same way, but nothing we can do about it. In the end, Trick got the pinfall win. Is this rivalry over, or will they continue to have matches?
It's over in NXT. It's over in NXT, I think.
Okay. He's getting drafted. On Thursday? Friday, I mean? I'm thinking old SmackDown. Friday? When's the draft? 26th, I think?
Well, if it's the 26th, yeah, it's next week.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll be here for that at the Golden Squeeze podcast. I think that wraps up NXT for this week. If you liked what you heard, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button, turn on notifications, and we will see you later on the Golden Squeeze podcast.